Good morning and welcome to a Board of Select meeting this morning on Tuesday the 19th. It is 9:30 a.m. and I'm hoping that Tina and I will be a little more perky than we are in the evening, but we do have a Board of Select meeting this evening too. But I think you're going away.
Yes.
And that's why we're meeting today to talk about the facility manager's position. John Cronin is not here. He has recused himself because he knew one of the candidates that we would be talking about. So Tina and I will be making a decision this morning, and then we will conduct our normal business tonight at 7 p.m. So Tina, if you would read the job description.
Sure. Like we've done before each of the round of interviews, I'll briefly read the job description and then the 3-year work plan that was created prior to the interviews. The purpose of this position is to perform administrative and supervisory work in directing and overseeing the maintenance, repair, and planning, as well as tracking of the town facilities. Must be knowledgeable in the areas of carpentry, painting, plastering, machine servicing, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, general custodial work, and facilities maintenance. The facilities manager is responsible for maintaining and improving upon the efficiency and effectiveness of the aforementioned. This position is new to Holliston and will require the development of new procedures, establishing relationships with department heads and relevant stakeholders, assessing needs of each facility and departments, and signing contracts and procuring services and inventory. This person will need to be self-motivated and able to effectively discuss needs, process, and action. This position will be provided an initial plan to follow as it grows. It is hoped this position will become its own department with additional resources and oversight. And so now I'm going to read the initial plan. The Select Board proposes this position will initially oversee non-school property needs in year one. Year one being assessing of all town non-school facilities. Year two will be implementation, in that the facilities manager will begin utilizing the facility plan previously prepared and develop a deferred maintenance plan to ensure regular maintenance of all building infrastructure. Year three will be an expansion of the position department. Potentially the facility manager will begin making recommendations for new employees and expansion into other oversight duties, including schools and parks. Again, that's year three.
Very good. Thank you, Tina. And this position we would expect would be a team position, utilizing our building inspector, collaboration with him, and also collaborating with the conservation department and any department head with a municipal building. He would be collaborating with them and trying to find out the history of the buildings, which would also mean working with town hall, working with the fire chief and the police chief. So we don't expect this person to know everything. Initially, we expect them to be able to work with others and utilize their skills to help make a nice plan that our town can utilize in the future, and eventually create a capital plan that would be worked on with the finance committee with the results, making priority lists of things that should be done for safety reasons, and then other lists of maintenance that needs to be done on buildings, and looking at long-term investments too, these buildings, and creating plans to take care of them properly, so that we don't have so much redundancy and wasting taxpayer money. So we're very excited about this position. And if you wanted to give us maybe an update on how we got to where we are with the candidates.
Yeah, I think it's worth a review, because I think that where we are today is not necessarily where we thought we would be in terms of how it was laid out originally. But I do very strongly feel that the process has been followed, so I thought it would be worthy of a quick review as to how this process started and again was followed through. So this summer, Work was done to create the job description, to create the work plan, to develop interdepartmental and committee support for the position, for the work plan, for the job description. There was town meeting approval for the position. That brought us to the fall, where there was the development of and the posting of the job description. We received, I believe, Jeff, 15 candidates through that process. After we collected those applications, there was a decision made to form a screening committee. That was discussed in open meeting. And the screening committee originally was 5 members and grew to 10. Those screening committee members had an opportunity to review materials submitted by the candidates. And the screening committee performed their duties, and there were candidates who were not scored to advance, and there were candidates who were scored to advance. Any candidate who was scored well was advanced to the first round of interviews, and that was 5 candidates. That occurred in early January, so a couple months after the job was posted.
And that's when the select board interviewed.
Right, and that's when the select board stepped in to pick up where the screening committee left off and to perform the interviews. Based on the initial 5 interviews, 2 were selected to advance to a second round of interviews, and that's where things sort of went off track a little bit in terms of what was maybe originally intended, in that we made an offer to our top candidate, and that offer was not accepted. And so that brought us back to where to go next.
Well,
and
he initially accepted it, but
right.
then
Ultimately, he's not in the
ultimately he's
position.
not, yeah.
And so the select board made the decision to bring up the 3rd ranked candidate from those 5 that were originally interviewed, to give that 3rd candidate an opportunity to have that second interview. And that's where we are today, making a decision between those 2 now final candidates.
Right.
So that's how I review the process.
Yes. So why don't we start off with candidate Greg Lefter.
Sure.
And if I can get your thoughts.
Sure, yeah. So again, I think the screening committee did a good job in presenting 5 candidates that had good qualifications that were worthy of being considered for the position. And so for Mr. Lefter, I jotted down what I felt after his 2 rounds of interviews were some particular strengths. He had supervised up to and over 120 employees through the variety of positions that he has held. He's a licensed builder. He had good knowledge, or tremendous knowledge, of the trades. He has experience with new school building projects. He has experience with town meeting. And he talked at length, I would say, about using a software program that's readily available to begin the year 1 goal of analyzing, make sure I read it correctly, but the year 1 goal of assessing the buildings. So those were the strengths that I saw in Mr. Lefter. So when I put his strengths up against the 3-year plan, I felt he was strong for each of the years, particularly strong with what he would bring for year 3. Mr. Keast, the second candidate, has experience supervising employees. He had mentioned that he's supervised over 70 employees. He mentioned corporate or executive experience with both budgets and workflow. He has the engineering degree that I think in general we were looking for. He has very strong communication skills. He has a long history in positions that require analytical thinking and executive decision making. And he talked about creating an assessment tool that he would use to analyze the buildings. So when I looked at, again, the 3-year work plan and put Mr. Keith's skills as demonstrated by his resume and his responses to the interview questions, I saw him very strong on year 1, I saw him very strong on year 2, and I saw him very strong on year 3, with the exception of the experience with the school buildings. So when I put the 2 together, my top candidate would be Keast, based on the results of the interview, the job experience off the resume, up against both the job description and the work plan. So that's the process that I went through to make my recommendation.
Okay. I had reviewed both of them again, and I thought that you know, it's too bad we we're not hiring 2 or 3 people. The plan is to have some people under this person eventually. Because I think that out of the 5, there's a few candidates that would be a good second person with building knowledge and past experiences with having a building license and so forth. This position, however, doesn't require that. This position is an executive position that will be more data-driven and will be utilizing, as I mentioned earlier, professionals in this building to collaborate with. And so if there is questions about a building or something, he can tap into our building inspector, who would be very helpful, who has also probably been doing some of his own assessment work with some of the buildings. So this position initially is an executive position that would lead the department and eventually would have a couple people under him that would have building skills such as some of the other candidates that lacked the education part may be very useful as a second or a third person. But unfortunately, we don't have that kind of money to hire 3 people. So we're starting at the top, and we know that that first year is going to be more data-driven. So we're trying to solve that problem. We've had a lot of feedback from residents who would love to have someone with experience, more experience with building and so forth, but we're not there yet. We need to get this position taken care of first. So I know some people are confused about that, and they didn't read the job description, and that's why I asked Tina to read it, so that people would have a little bit better understanding of what the Board of Select is looking for this. And the criteria we created was very purposeful to make sure that we're getting someone with a engineering degree, someone who's got a lot of education that's going to be able to handle a wide array of topics and subjects that they will run into. And so when I looked at Mr. Lefter, I thought he was very passionate speaker, and I think that he's got a lot of experience. His resume was inaccurate, though, which bothered me, and so I wasn't pleased with that. His education was a certificate in facilities management, and the resume appeared to me that it was more than that, but once we researched it, we found out it was a certificate program. So we're looking for a little bit more education than that. However, as I mentioned, he has a lot of experience. So I view Mr. Lefter as someone that would be perfect as the second person that would take the project and run with it and organize it and get all the players together to accomplish that project. I think he would be perfect for that. But I viewed Mr. Keith's credentials to be more in line with what the facilities manager position in education and communication skills were very high. So I agree with you that Mr. Keith fits the job description a little better. Mm-hmm. But I do think that if we were hiring 2 or 3 people, we would easily be able to find those 3 within the 5 that we were given to interview. So lot of good traits, lot of experience. And when you're building a department, you want strengths in other areas. And so, you know, obviously we're not going to be in a position to hire 2 more people for a while. But when we are, if some of these 5 do apply, it'll be a pretty easy choice for the board to make. So that's my take on it. It was a pretty lengthy process, looking at both individuals, and but you know, looking at the 5 was really you know, we gave them all. We gave the top 3 2 interviews each, and I think, you know, I don't think we can be more thorough than that. So, and I had made up my mind this morning that you being the researcher you are, which, you know, is pretty impressive the way you research everything, that that was going to weigh heavy into what my decision was. And the other option was to start over again and interview, put it back out. But I do think that, you know, just because we lost the first one doesn't mean we don't have viable candidates still.
Yeah, I thought a lot about that, and I really could not find the point in time at which anywhere in the process I would have said, we need to start over. 15 candidates is a lot.
Right.
I don't know what's typical in town when we post, but 15 candidates seems like a very...
like a lot, yeah.
Yeah. 5 candidates advanced to the first round of interviews seems like a lot.
Yeah.
And to have those 5 candidates chosen by the screening committee, and by that I mean nobody was advanced to an interview who wasn't identified as a possible candidate by the screening committee.
Right.
I think that that's a valid process,
right,
to get us to the point where we are today. So I just couldn't see where starting over got us something different that would improve upon some deficit in the process to
Right.
date. So others may feel differently about that, but when you looked at it objectively, there was no justification for starting over, in my mind.
Right.
So that's, yeah.
Right.
I'm
Yeah, and I say some people in the community mentioned to me that, you know, we could start over again, but as long as we had a viable candidate, I mean, you know, if you had said to me this morning, I definitely want to start over again, then I would go along with that.
Yeah, you've been open to that idea, yeah.
But I just don't see that as necessary at
I
this
agree.
point. I mean, if for some reason candidate backed out, then I would say, yeah, you know, if we had another back out, then I would say, yeah, start over again. So, anything else you want to say or discuss about the situation? Or-
No, I mean, the timeline moving forward matters to me. So Jeff, I don't know if you can weigh in on sort of when the board chooses the candidate that they'd like to offer the position to, how do things move from that point?
Well, I mean, after this meeting, I'll make a phone call and follow that up with a letter,
Okay,
just like we did with Mr.
Peasy.
okay,
And hopefully at that juncture, the individual will accept the position, and
Okay.
we'll set the process in going back forward with a quality check and physical, and
okay,
drug test, all that stuff.
okay.
Yeah, background check. Yeah.
Yep.
And then when does the new hire start?
Well, we'd have to talk about that between him and I. I
W-
mean, it's usually...
Weeks, months?
No, we'd be probably within a month.
Okay. So on that point, I would just make this comment, that this process has ended in a more challenging way than was anticipated. And I I really want to send the message that it's important that this candidate, if we're talking about a start date within a month from the end of this process, that that candidate, that new hire, be given a warm welcome and the best opportunity to start the job off on the right foot.
Right.
Because this offer would not be made without this heavy consideration, this process with a tremendous amount of integrity that has been open and robust. And a month is a short time.
Yeah.
And I think it's critical that the new hire is in a position to walk in and start off on the best foot forward. And because there's interdepartmental collaboration, I think that it's critical that as a town, we're there to support the candidate, the new hire on day one.
Right.
So I would just put that out there, because a month, again, is short time from where we are today.
So I will take a motion.
I move to offer James Keese the position of facilities manager.
I second that. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
One other detail, you have the warrant here, you could
Sure.
approve that?
Absolutely.
So today's warrant is for $519,236.61, of which the town payroll is $162,558.95. Move to accept the warrant.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. And then new business, or any other business rather.
Yes.
Being not present this evening,
Yes.
there is on the agenda downtown trash district.
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to present a little bit of information. I honestly was asking for how best to do it. I can forward some
Sure.
information to you to share tonight.
Yep.
Okay, I think I'll just do that then.
Very good.
Yep.
All right.
We also have the MVP RFP on the agenda.
MVP, RFP, right, right, okay.
But
Is Chris Mayo going to be here to present it, or?
no, he's not.
Okay,
He wasn't planning to be here.
okay. Can I ask if the RFP has a dollar amount attached?
80,000.
Okay. Okay, because I had met with Chris over at the end of last week, and we had talked about perhaps removing rather the dollar amount and just leaving it open to tasks and not
Yeah.
an
We
actual.
can certainly do that.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
just want to run the document by the board before it's
Right.
publicized.
Okay. Okay. I think that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Very good. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. This meeting is now over. It is 9:48. Thank you, and we'll see you tonight.